Hey guys, MuJK here with another installment of Top 10 Units in Global. This is episode 2, I guess, and it's been about exactly a month since the first one, and obviously a lot has changed, so let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10 is FFBE's own Chizuru. She's primarily, or almost exclusively, a physical damage dealer, not really much else. She has a really great chaining AoE attack in Phantom Shadow, and that's pretty much the reason why most people use her. In addition to the good damage that it does, and defense ignore and all that stuff, it also hits multiple times in rapid succession, so it makes chaining a lot easier, especially if you have two of them going consecutively. So she kind of has a niche use for people who like to chain and really beef up their attack that way, or for arena, obviously, because it also bypasses Cecil's cover abilities. She also has solid single target options in Glint, which is kind of like Luneth's single target attack, and also Barrage, of course, but that has the downside of being random if there's more than one enemy on the screen. She has high attack overall, 154 base, which is really high. However, she is a bit squishy for a 6-star unit. She's not much tankier than a mage, really, except for the fact that she has some passives and things like that, but she is a little bit squishy, so she needs a little bit of tanking and mitigation to help her out. Also, if you don't have TMs like Sakura Fubuki or even the event Chirichiraden, which some people have missed by now, you're going to be a little bit limited on equipment selection, so there's that downside to her. And also, she doesn't really offer much in terms of utility. She's just purely there for damage and for chaining, which is, doesn't mean that she's bad. It just means that she's maybe not as slot efficient as other units. So that's why Chizuru is number 10. Number 9 is Elza, who was a Brave Frontier Global exclusive. She did come down a bit in the rankings, and I'll explain a little bit why. Not much has changed, obviously, in terms of the details, but the main reason that she came down in my mind is because she offered something that was pretty rare before, especially the debuff to defense and things like that. And it was rare because while there's a lot of full breakers in the game, there's no 6-star ones, so it was kind of hard to slot in a decent 6-star unit to debuff the enemy. But now that we have other units coming in the game that have those debuffs, Elza is not really as useful or as a must-have in each party, so that's why she came down to number 9. Still a very good unit, still lacking AoE, unfortunately. And if she has dual wield, she can be really good, but she's not as unique as she used to be, so that's why she's number 9. Number 8 is Cloud of Darkness. Now, if you paid attention last time, she's dropped quite a lot from number 3. And again, the same reason for dropping is that she's not as unique in her ability set, and she offered so much before that was hard to find elsewhere. AoE debuffs, boosting resistances with Omni Veil and things like that. But now that we have more options, we have Sirius, we have Luka, who can, do AoE Asuna and things like that. We have other ways to get our resistances and utility, AoE debuffs, things like that. Cloud of Darkness is still quite good. Still brings a lot to the table, especially against human enemies, but she's not as must-have for some of those tough boss fights because there are other options. So that's why she's number 8. Number 7, making her way into the top 10 for the first time, is Dark Fina. Some people might be a little bit surprised that she's even up here because, I'm not really high on mages in general, but she is the best 6-star mage in global that we have right now, and she has good stats too. Like Exdeath, she has innate dual black magic, and then this time she brings Ultima instead of Meteor, so that's good. She has good elemental coverage, especially in things that are a little bit more rare, like the air spells and water spells. Also dark elemental. But she also brings a lot of utility with AoE status ailments and debuffs, which brings down attack and defense. That could be very useful, and that's part of the reason why COD is a little bit less must-have, because there's friends now that you can get with Dark Fina and bring her to the fight instead. Also, Retaliate makes her very scary for Arena. And she's just a really good Arena unit overall. And that kind of factors into my rankings as well. While I know that, Arena is not a huge concern for most people, I think that being really good in Arena does have to bump her up a little bit. Of course, the downsides are the same as with Exdeath, and that's that magic meta is generally not as powerful right now. It is still useful, as we were seeing in the exploration event that we have right now. I mean, having a mage that can kind of just spam your way through all the trash mobs and use osmos to fill up and things like that is still useful. So, not necessarily a must-have, but nobody's really gonna complain if they get a Dark Fina. And she does lack some common elements like fire and ice, but I'm not sure how much of an issue that is going to be going forward. And even if the enemy has fire weakness and you're not able to target that, you can still do Ultima and you'll be fine. So she is a base 5-star, which is a downer. And again, I've mentioned that she's not as huge of an upgrade as you would expect over Exdeath, but she's still the best mage right now in the game. She's a mage and a debuff, and she brings some interesting abilities and things to the table, including Distress, which can do a wide variety of status ailments. So that's why she's number 7. Very useful unit overall. Number 6 is Gilgamesh, and this may be a little bit of a bump up for him, and the reason is because people kept mentioning in the comments, like, why is Gilgamesh so low? And he has his own dual wield TM anyway, in the form of Genji Glove. So how can you put him so low and things like that? Because the main knock against him was that he doesn't have a native dual wield. So I kind of factored that in, but at the same time, I do have a Gilgamesh on one of my alts, and I still don't have his TM. So just the fact that he brings his own Genji Glove TM doesn't mean that everybody's going to automatically have it right away if they have a Gilgamesh. So that's why he's still not a little bit higher, but he is a great unit with a lot of high potential. Good AoE, good single target. So that's why he's number 6. Number 5 is Lightning. Now, she may have been a little bit higher in the last episode, I guess. And the reason she came down a little bit for me is because I've been using her a lot more lately on my alt and also during that Frosty event. And quite honestly, I was a little bit underwhelmed by how effective the elemental AoE skills are. I mean, it's definitely useful, but I found that when I would want to bring a friend, I wouldn't really want to get a lightning, even if her attack was pretty decent. And of course, her attack is naturally lower than a Luneth or Noctis. But if somebody has a Luneth, for example, and he just has an elemental sword on, I found that was a little bit. It just felt more consistent, felt easier to chain, felt easier to use than Lightning's elemental AoE attacks, which kind of had this long delay in between, and just felt kind of like not as strong as I thought it would be. And then, of course, Crushing Blow, 2.7 multiplier for 45 MP, still underwhelming to say the least. And it doesn't have any defense ignore. I mean, it lowers lightning resistance a little bit, but unless you're following it up with a lot of lightning attacks, and again, I don't really use mages too much, and not everybody's really using lightning attacks all the time. It just seems like a mediocre single target ability for her. So still a great unit because she has dual wield innately, of course, and she does have that elemental coverage, but I just don't think it's as important as I once thought it was. Light speed is very useful in arena still, so still tough to face in the arena, but she doesn't have resistance to stone and other ailments, so she's very good, but not as dominant as I once thought. And coming in at number 4, actually moving up without any effort on her own, is Refia. And the reason for that is because we've actually had a slew of new healers coming into Global, and it's only really made me appreciate Refia that much more, at least for the time being. And the reason for that is because full life and, being able to dual cast these things really helps her a ton. I mean, for instance, in the Dark Fina fight in the current event, if she wipes you out with all of her strong AoE magic and you're trying to quickly get somebody back into the fight, if you just do a raise on them, you're not that person is not going to survive the next turn at all. There's no chance of it happening. I mean, the bosses are not going to let up. They're typically not going to ease up for a turn unless they're going to charge up for something. So you really need that full raise to get them back in the fight and to have them survive at least one attack the next turn, to kind of get back on your feet. So I don't know. It just feels like Refia is. It sounds weird to say because we've gotten these good healers, but it seems like she's more important than ever, at least in my eyes. So that's why she's number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Luneth. Now, definitely people were arguing that he should have been higher than Lightning to begin with, and I kind of agree now. He has noticeably higher attack stat-wise, and the fact that he doesn't have elemental coverage or all these other skills, it's not really a downer. I've added your pendant to his best skills because having those resistances is actually very useful. Not being able to be petrified and things like that, not being able to be blinded. In arena, that makes him a lot more stable. And just, he's just a solid character overall, even if he's very simple. You can put on some kind of elemental weapon if you need that elemental coverage. It's not going to cover everything, of course, but I don't know. He's just a really solid character, and his stats just kind of make up for his simplicity. So that's why he's number 3. Coming in at number 2 is our boy Cecil, still the best tank in the game. There are other tanking options now, and I'll get to some of that a little bit, but he's still, in my eyes, the best tank in the game, the most slot efficient tank in the game. If you have him, he's like the cornerstone of your party, keeping everybody alive. Not much to say that I haven't said already, but he's, a healer, a support, a tank, just a really great unit to have, makes any party better, so that's why he's number 2. Now, honorable mentions, I have to mention these guys because I don't want the top 10 to make it seem like these are the only good units to have. All of these honorable mention units are going to fit into certain party compositions and do really well. White Knight Noel, in terms of pure tanking, he's actually arguably a step above Cecil. The main reason I have him as an honorable mention rather than ranked in the top 10 is because I would still much rather prefer Cecil in my party because Cecil brings a lot more utility, brings healing and all this stuff. White Knight Noel, he does have elemental magic, but it's kind of hard to build him as a really strong tank and a mage at the same time. His own TM helps for sure, but it's kind of one or the other. And he's really great in arena, and in fact, I'd much rather have him in the arena than Cecil. But in terms of usefulness and getting you through really tough content, assuming you're not, just blasting your way through everything anyway, he is definitely a noticeable notch below Cecil, and I have him in my alt account, and he's just not as useful as I thought he would be, and he's not countering like left and right all the time, so he's a very good unit, but oh, and the fact that he's elemental sometimes can be a detriment, so that's why he's not in the top 10. Exdeath is still a great mage. The only reason he's not in the top 10 is because others bumped him out. Luka is a great healer. Not having full raise or life definitely hurts her, but she's still a very solid healer that you should enjoy if you have her. Roselia, lacking support, but if in terms of just pure healing, she is the best in terms of pure healing. You can fill in some of those support like buffs and things like that through other means, but it's not going to be as turn efficient, so that's why she is an honorable mention. It's just better to have, for instance, a Refia, I know I keep talking about her, who can embolden and do all those other things rather than having to rely on other units for that stuff. So that's why she's an honorable mention here. Bartz is not really great at anything, but he's just solid all around. And again, he still has that, quote unquote human elixir ability and things like that. So it's still a very capable unit if you have him. And then Snow, just a solid tank, but really doesn't do much else. I have him again on my alts, and I've just never been able to get much out of him. I mean, yeah, he'll attack back, but it's not like he's doing a lot of damage or anything like that, and he has no utility. So, um, solid 6-star tank, but doesn't bring much else to the table. And of course, everybody knows who number one is. It's not a mystery. Is number one, Noctis. Um, yes, people are saying, oh, he's a nerfed down version from the Japan version, but considering that they had to release him at the same time in both versions, they did a great job of toning him down just a little bit so that it's a little bit fair with the current power creep and things like that. But he's still by far the number one unit in my eyes. I say the role is Prince of Everything, and that's because he can pretty much do everything. Not the best, but he's just so slot efficient because he can, you know, in a pinch, he can address every need. He can tank for a turn if you need him to. He can, you know, cast party-wide regens and things like that. He can refill his MP. He can do AoE debuffs. He can do just pure attacking if you need him to. I'm kind of going over all the highlights unintentionally here, but yeah, he has the highest base attack, and if you have him equipped the right way, then you know those passives really help you to get the most out of him. You can even customize him to become more of a mage than an attacker, or you can just do pure physical, which would still improve the hybrid attacks as well. The way that those are calculated is it's just basically attack plus magic divided by 2, and then multiplied by whatever it is. So regardless of how you build him, physical or magic, those flasks are gonna be very powerful. His limit burst is amazing. It's a really high damage dealing ability, somewhere in like the 8 multiplier plus, you know, depending on the level. And it's a party-wide buff for all of your major stats for 2 turns. The only reason that's not a positive versus just an asterisk here is because it does take a while to charge up, and in most cases you're not going to be able to use it right when you need it. But again, in the current event with the expiration, you're able to just build up that limit burst meter over time, and then you can just save it for the boss fight and just unleash it. It's really awesome to have. Plus you have other units that have entrust and things like that, and it just makes it so much more usable and spammable if you need to. So it should probably be a positive, actually. Oops. But yeah, just the fact that you can't spam it normally like you would with the other ones is why it's an asterisk. He doesn't have native dual wield, which is what he needs to really, again, unlock his full potential. But even as a single wielding, free-to-play Noctis, you still have all these things in his toolkit that make him great. Warp Break, if you can't get a ton of damage out of it because you don't have dual wield, you still have a high multiplier single target attack, which is arguably the best in the game, considering that it's, you know, focused on one enemy. It works out to like a 4.166, almost a 4.2 multiplier, so great damage plus the debuffs to attack and defense. All in one, it's a great skill. All of his flask skills that you guys are familiar with, great AoE, elemental coverage, status ailments, debuffs, stopping, just crazy utility. Point warp again to refill his HP and MP if he's starting to get low. And I'm not even factoring in the fact that he can, you know, basically counter by healing himself when he gets attacked. So he's going to stay on his feet for quite a while. Cover, which is not the cover that we think of normally, but actually helps you to regen HP and MP. Again, in the current event, in the exploration, people pointed out that, you know, you don't need to worry so much about MP running out because you can have it regenning and you can just, you know, knock out all the tough enemies, have one left, keep, you know, defending and regenning your MP if you need to. Of course, you can just tent, but just gives you that extra flexibility. And then come back, which is, you know, full life or a raise. I mean, it's just crazy that he has all this in his toolkit. So he is a base rarity 5-star, so he's hard to get, and he's even harder to get now because he's not a featured unit, but it's hard to argue that he's the best. It's hard to dispute the fact that he's the best unit in global right now, and I think he's going to stay that way for a time to come, just because he brings so much to the table. So anyway, that's why he's the obvious number one in my eyes, and especially so with dual wield. Hope you guys enjoyed. comment below and tell me what you think of the list. It was definitely harder this time because we're getting more and more 6-star units that are good in their own roles and find their uses, you know. But I think just in very general terms, for most players, I think this is going to be a somewhat accurate representation of who the top 10 are. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll try to make this a regular thing and see you guys next time.